This is the Palin Update on SaraNet Radio. I'm Kevin Scholla.
Who can argue a movement that is about the people and for the people? Remember, all political power is inherent in the people, and government is supposed to be working for the people. That is what this movement is about.
His name is Tim Donnelly. He's a California state assemblyman. He's billed as a patriot, not a politician, and he's running for governor in the Golden State. The very popular Tim Donnelly joins us today on the show. Sarah Palin turns 50, and she gets a surprise happy birthday video card, plus some other goodies. Well, it's confirmed Governor Palin is back at CPAC this year. A happy birthday, Honest Abe. The Iron Dog race gets underway in Alaska. A brand new Commonwealth Common Sense with Susan Stimson. And just ahead, our latest edition of Steel Resolve with Sarah Steelman. First up, if you're ever on social media and you take a look at patriot groups, Tea Party groups, conservative groups, they're all raving about Tim Donnelly. He's running for governor in California and trying to change a state that has been as blue can get in recent memory. We're happy to have him here today with us. Assemblyman Donnelly, welcome to the Palin Update on SaraNet Radio.
It's my pleasure, Kevin.
Now, you're a popular guy nowadays, at least in common sense circles and patriotic circles. I mean, I see your name every day on Twitter and Facebook, people in California and outside of the state who are very passionate about your candidacy.
Yeah, you know, California is a bellwether for the nation, and the GOP doesn't even believe we can win it, and they've pretty much given up. And, you know, all the money that goes into politics pretty much out of California goes to federal races and leaves the state. I think we can do it a different way.
And that way is you want to get back to those basics that make our country exceptional, right? Free enterprise, liberty, restricting government regulation, and upholding the Constitution.
Well, yeah. I mean, what you're talking about are American principles and American values, and I don't think that they are only restricted to the Republican Party. I think there's an awful lot of Democrats that have been left behind because their party has been hijacked, in California at least, by Marxist progressives, people who want to control you. They want to use government to advance their own agendas, which is build a legion and an army of regulators that self-perpetuate. Government's become the fastest growing industry in the state of California, and there's a whole lot of people that really don't want that, and yet they feel like they have no place to go, and we're uniting them in our campaign.
So many issues in California, and like you said, they transcend to the whole nation, but border control and immigration, a big one, and you have a real place of experience to speak from there since you founded the largest Minuteman chapter in California.
Yes, I did, and so I understand the immigration issue more than almost any other candidate in California, Republican or Democrat. I lived on the border. I've witnessed the absolute tyranny of our government, and really there's tyranny in two governments. You've got the government of Mexico that has completely abandoned the rule of law and been taken over and hijacked by corruption to the tune that almost 100,000 people have died there. They've lost count just in the last 4 years. And we have human trafficking. We have minors, young boys and girls being sold into the sex trade on the street of California while their parents are promised they'll work in restaurants and hotels. It's a tragedy and an atrocity right here in our own backyard, and everybody thinks by ignoring it, somehow it's all going to get better.
You break things down very simply as far as the issues are concerned on the trail. You talk about responsibility, prosperity, security, and freedom. Let's touch on these. First, responsibility. You say our future depends on it.
Well, absolutely. I mean, personal responsibility, meaning you own the consequences of your own actions. What is this nonsense where government's supposed to bail out and save everybody? I think that just grinds on the average hardworking American. It grinds on their sensibilities, and you know the idea in California we have 2.5 times as many people dependent on government on welfare programs. We have the government paying people not to work, and yet at the very same time, with their oppressive regulations and confiscatory tax policies, they've driven job opportunities out of the state. So, you know, every which way you look, government has become the greatest threat to our future and to our success and opportunity.
Prosperity, you believe, comes from lower taxes and regulatory reform. Can you elaborate there?
We could put California on a pathway to prosperity tomorrow. It isn't complicated, and prosperity will fix almost everything that ails California. But it starts by repealing and getting rid of obstacles to progress. And a lot of these obstacles were set up just so that regulators and the paperwork police can have jobs. And we need to shrink government so we can increase opportunity. We ought to be fracking our way to prosperity and drilling our way to prosperity rather than sitting on an ocean of oil and importing it from our enemies. We ought to be using the bully pulpit to lower tax rates, not raise them like Governor Jerry Brown did. And you know, the bottom line is, if we made California the sexiest place on the planet to do business, meaning California's already gorgeous on the outside, but the personality of California is Jerry Brown, and it's repulsive. It's pushing people out of the state. We need a personality that is friendly and inviting and says, hey, we want you to come here, and we want business owners and taxpayers and citizens to feel that this is the only place on the planet Earth they want to be.
And when it comes to security, Assemblyman, you say the state government has failed in that department.
Oh, there's an epic fail. I mean, Jerry Brown passed what he called the realignment. Well, in simple terms, that just means early release for criminals. He's letting violent predators like Jerome Davila out. Man was violated his parole and was put in jail for 24 hours. And as soon as they released him under this early release Jerry Brown program, he raped and murdered his 76-year-old grandmother. They're doing this, they're dumping these violent criminals onto our streets and into our neighborhoods at the very same time they're trying to turn every law-abiding American, law-abiding Californian into a criminal when they want to buy a gun to defend themselves. They're making it harder and harder and harder to exercise your fundamental, natural, constitutional, civil right of self-defense by dismantling the Second Amendment. So right there, that's one of those issues that is a huge crossover issue. There's no Republicans or Democrats when it comes to defending your family from a violent criminal. You want to have that ability. And there is some exciting news on that front. The Ninth Circuit, that liberal court of appeals, that federal court, has actually declared California a shall-issue state. So even if you're poor, even if you live in a bad neighborhood and you're not politically connected, you can actually get a concealed carry weapons permit in the state of California now.
Touching on the Second Amendment there, to follow up a little bit, liberty and freedom overall seems like we're losing it every day, especially when it comes to guns and also health care.
Well, absolutely. I mean, if you look at what Jerry Brown did in California on health care, he's bringing in the Obamacare, but then making it 100 times worse. Every single natural free enterprise incentive that was built into Obamacare, and there weren't many, but there were a handful. If you were a smoker, if you were morbidly obese, you had to pay a little bit more to ensure the risk of your own behavior. Well, now, in California, there can be no additional penalty. Everybody's in the same boat. And the bottom line is a whole lot of Californians, they call this the Affordable Care Act. Well, how affordable is it if you lose your job and you can't feed your family? You know, there's a lot of people that are struggling to put food on the table and gas in the tank and keep a roof over their heads. The last thing in the world they can afford is to pay more for health care when they could barely afford health care in the first place.
Is that your dog, Assemblyman?
Yeah, that's my dog.
You know, it sounds like we've hit some issues that your dog's pretty fired up about, too. I mean, you were talking about personal liberties and freedoms. It's not just for the two-legged, huh?
Absolutely. Well, hey, in the state of California,
well, they vote.
Some dogs that have actually voted.
Right, and Chicago and Philadelphia. But, you know, one character trait of Sarah Palin's that we so love, that we can see in you, sir, is you tell it like it is. There's no filter, no teleprompter, no political speak, if you will. Do you find that most effective when you talk to real voters? And also, do you admire Palin's willingness to not hold back when it comes to this country?
I have a great deal of admiration for Sarah Palin and what she did, which is basically she was a normal person who talks like a normal person, and it so offends the political establishment and the elite. And I'll tell you what, the one thing that seems to unify people, and I don't care if they are Republican, Democrat, liberal, or even leftist. I mean, I've had guys like Rob Schneider endorse me, and he holds some very different views than me on about 80% of the issues. But the bottom line is that people want somebody who's got skin in the game, somebody who's normal, somebody who's like us. I'm not independently wealthy. I'm just a normal American. I have my own business, and California's policies regulated me out of business. And I'm there to fight so that every single Californian has the same opportunity that I had. I came to the state with $300 in my pocket, and within a decade, I had married an amazing woman and built my own business in the manufacturing sector. And I don't see that same opportunity for my kids or anybody else's kids right now in the state of California. A lot of them are hitting the highway and heading to Texas and other states so that they can have a better life and live the American dream. I think the California dream starts by us taking back our power and restoring this state to the land of opportunity again. Simple as that.
California's been very liberal with elections. I know people who've left your state for Texas and other places because they just couldn't take the far-left agenda anymore. So I think you touched on this a little more if you could. How can a real constitutional common-sense patriot like yourself have a real shot in a state now run by Jerry Brown and other ultra-liberals?
Well, look, we're doing this a different way. We have. I kicked off 10 days ago a bus tour. I hit 40 cities, logged over 5,000 miles. I can't tell you how many hands I shook or how many people I met, how many radio programs I was on, but there is an enthusiasm and an excitement and a momentum that is building. And it's not just building for Tim Donnelly. It's building for a cause that's much greater than ourselves, and that's restoring the cause of the first revolution, which is liberty. California used to be the freest, most prosperous state in the union, and what's happened is it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat, you hear California being made fun of. California is the butt of late-night jokes. And one thing that I've discovered is when you talk about pride and bringing pride back, and that means bringing jobs and opportunity and liberty and freedom and to be able to celebrate what's great about California, that inspires a lot of people because it's a non-political message. So that's what we're doing, and we're doing it a different way. I mean, I put out a little video with Maria Conchita Alonso. She was basically chased out of a job because liberal, diverse, and tolerant San Francisco, people were calling in and threatening to burn down the theater because she was supporting me for governor. I mean, because I'm a Tea Party guy and I'm a Minuteman. Well, you know what? A whole lot of people, this went all over the media, and within, I don't know, a week and a half, we got about $1 million worth of free media. I've got this incredible actress who's doing commercials for me on newscasts in 2 languages all over the country. So there's another way to do it, but it starts by picking the right fight and by sticking to your guns and by uniting people, by just not offending them. Treat them with respect. Doesn't mean you ever back down on what you believe in, because there are principles that are absolutely fundamental to our liberty, and that's what I'm fighting for.
Well, Tim Donnelly, you have certainly invigorated a lot of folks. What's your website, sir?
It's electtimdonnelly.com. So it's elect Tim Donnelly, and Donnelly is just spelled 2 N's and 2 L's. And we also have a great Facebook page. We have some great videos out there that are easy to share. And you know what? We're asking people to understand that what happens in California will eventually affect you, and we could use your help to win the governorship and turn California around so we can turn this country around.
Well, thank you so much, sir, for being here today. All the best to you, your campaign, your family, and, of course, the pooch.
God bless you and Godspeed. Again,
visit electtimdonnelly.com to learn more and help Donnelly as he runs for governor in California. That's electtimdonnelly, DONNELLY.com. This past week, Sarah Palin turned the big 5-0. She posted online, "Thank you so much for the kind birthday wishes. It's so very, very humbling. God bless you all from your half-century-old friend." Gulp. She also included a link to a very cool birthday video card. You can check it out at shepac.com. That's SHEPAC.com. Sarah Palin let the world into her birthday a little bit as well. She wrote online that her sisters brought her some homemade chocolate cake and apple pie, but ever selfless, Palin asked people if they want to give her a birthday present to donate to help fight breast cancer, to Breast Cancer Focus, which is the group that Todd Palin is raising money for in the Iron Dog. Happy birthday, Governor Palin, from everyone here at SarahNet Radio. After wowing a packed house the last 2 years, Sarah Palin is heading back to CPAC once again. She will speak on Saturday, March 8th in Maryland. Palin said it's time to join other common-sense conservatives from across our great country at CPAC. It's the American Conservative Union's 50th anniversary, and with November just around the corner, this is the pivotal time to get energized and inspired to fundamentally restore our nation. Sarah Palin remembered President Lincoln this past week, posting, quote, "God bless the legacy of our 16th president. He served with honesty and integrity, held our nation together in the worst of times, understood and assured the blessings of liberty for all Americans, and didn't succumb to the special interests that would destroy our union for personal gain," unquote. She added, "It's our nation, and Lincoln gave his life to assure that it remained the last best hope on earth." And the Iron Dog race is underway in Alaska. Todd Palin added again his 21st run in the grueling race, this time, though, with a new partner, Tyler Huntington. Governor Palin said Team 11 got fueled up before the race by eating moose chili and blueberry pie. Todd's team is also raising money for Breast Cancer Focus this year. You can hear my interview with Todd at SarahNetRadio.net and track his progress at IronDog.org. We wish Team 11 all the best. To see any of the governor's posts in their entirety, visit Sarah Palin's Facebook page and follow her on Twitter at Sarah Palin USA.
It's time for Commonwealth Common Sense with Susan Stimson and Kevin Scholla.
Hello, Susan. How are you?
Hey, Kevin. I'm doing great, thank you.
Now, I know we've talked in great detail over recent weeks about problems within the Republican Party with Tea Partiers and establishment types, butting heads and, hurting the party in the process, but seems that there are perhaps not as public, but there seems to be some problems in the Democrat Party as well?
Yes, it does appear to be so, and could read about it today in the Washington Post, and I also saw an intriguing interview with Mary Madeline and James Carville where they're acknowledging that there are internal battles as well within the Democrat Party. I do think that you have a lot of different dynamics in our country right now. Part of it is we are moving into the information age, and so it's not as easy for the party bosses to keep control of the messaging, and the information is out there. But I also think that we're in a different age now as well, as far as the leadership, and the country is divided 50-50, and then within the parties, I think you have a division on what the vision is for the country. And I think what you're seeing, at least I can see this on the Republican side, there is a disconnect from many of the leaders in the national GOP from the average GOP in our country. And I think you're seeing some of that within the Democrat Party as well.
Well, I guess we've seen this. I mean, the fever pitch was in 2008 when the Hillary Clinton side and the Barack Obama side really went at it and it got ugly. But I guess the difference is Democrats seem to come together when there's a nominee or when an issue is finally pushed forward, whereas this sparring in the Republican Party just continues, and then you see this either apathy or non-support when the other person wins. Like when a Tea Party candidate wins a primary fair and square, a lot of times they're just left hung out to dry without support from the establishment.
I think one of the issues right now as well for the Republican Party at the national level, there is no real clear leader of the Republican Party, and that we were much more united under President Bush, and I think the Democrats are benefiting from having a Democrat president in office. But at the same time, as we move toward the next election, you can see that the division is pretty sharp in the Republican Party on who the next nominee is going to be. I think you're also seeing a little bit of that evidencing itself in the Democrat Party as well. There have been some other commentators that I've watched who have said Hillary Clinton is not the nominee that we should put forward. So I think it's something to watch. I think it's something to be aware of. And I do agree with Paul Ryan on this point where he has said that we do need to offer alternatives and not just no. And I do think that he tried to put those alternatives out there, but I think that our Republican leaders need to recognize, at least with their base, that there are some things that we just can't compromise on, and the level of interest in immigration reform among the average Republican is nowhere near at the top of the list like it is for a lot of our GOP leaders. So it's really going to be up to the base to remain engaged and involved and to let their leaders know the issues that they care about and to keep that in line.
Yeah, and those that are technically in leadership positions like John Boehner, I mean, they're not exactly capturing the imagination of the nation or Republicans, your average Republican. Plus, you talk about what's to come down the road. If Hillary ever were the nominee, I guess it's going to depend on who the opponent is, because if you have someone like a Palin or a Cruz who isn't afraid to speak, they'll call someone with such a shoddy record like herself out on Benghazi, out on Whitewater, out on all these other things. Whereas if it's a Christie or a Jeb Bush or, one of these, like a Romney-McCain repeat, they're going to put the kid gloves on again and come out of the good loser, quote unquote, once again.
Let me just put it a little bit in perspective, and it's hard when you haven't been inside the belly of the beast. But I have, and I can see how the inside of this machine works. And the way it works is you go along to get along. And if you don't, then you are pushed out. And I think what we're seeing is the success of candidates more and more, like Senator Lee and Senator Cruz, where you may not exactly agree with them, but at least they do have the courage to stand up, and they're not bound by this code. And it exists in the Democrat Party as well as the Republican Party. And I think that hopefully now what we're seeing is more people that are going to get elected into office who aren't afraid to actually do what they campaigned on. Right now, we seem to struggle in our party on actually following through on what we've campaigned on.
Well, let's hope so. Susan, thank you so much.
Thanks, Kevin.
Susan Stimson in Virginia. More Commonwealth Common Sense next week. Now, our weekly commentary, Steel Resolve. Here's Sarah Steelman.
Thanks, Kevin. Mizzou football player Michael Sam's news that he was gay made all the headlines this week. Michael Sam's life story as a survivor is what is remarkable. I happen to be a mother of 3 young men who love football, and I cherish every moment they played. Lately, football has gotten a bad rap. But football is a tough game, and a guy has to be mentally and physically tough to play. According to a recent article in ESPN's NFL, football helped give Michael Sam the drive to have a better life, a life different from several of his other siblings. He also had a surrogate family who stepped up and offered him support and a safe haven when his own family failed. His football team was also a family to him, and apparently he had good coaches, committed to the young men who played for them and who are willing to do what it takes to develop men of character. Football offers many boys something that they desperately need, the chance to be a part of a team, to sacrifice for their teammates, to dedicate and commit themselves to do what it takes to be physically and mentally prepared, to give 100% win or lose, to leave it all on the field of battle. High school football saves many young men and gives them a chance at getting a scholarship and going to college. Football, not government, not a social welfare program, not more money, hardcore, down and dirty football. The real Michael Sam story is remarkable because he survived, and the real value of playing high school football can be summed up in a quote from the great Vince Lombardi. Football is like life. It requires perseverance, self-denial, hard work, sacrifice, dedication, and respect for authority. This is Sarah Steelman for SarahNet Radio.
Tune in again next week for another segment of Steel Resolve right here on the Palin Update. The Palin Update, including Commonwealth Common Sense and Steel Resolve, is on demand and available for download. So just head to SarahNetRadio.net, pick the show you want to hear, and you can listen anywhere, anytime. Well, that'll just about do it for this edition of the Palin Update on SarahNet Radio. Visit SarahNetRadio.net for continuing coverage of Governor Palin. Also follow along on Twitter at SarahNet Radio, at Kevin Scholla, at Susan B. Stimson, and at Sarah_Steelman. For a full recap of everything you hear on the Palin Update, plus more news regarding Governor Palin, head to our Facebook page and like SarahNet Radio. Also like Kevin Scholla on Facebook. Palin Patriots is our feature on saranet.net. There you can check out the writings from our great panel of contributors, including Martha Zoller and Bader Cormut. And I'm doing some writing for Breitbart News. Just go to Breitbart.com and search Kevin Scholla. I want to thank Sarah Steelman, Susan Stimson, and everyone here at Saranet Radio. Thanks to Tim Donnelly, and thank you for listening today. Please be sure to join us again next time for another edition of the Palin Update. I'm Kevin Scholla. Have a pleasant day.